Gentlemen, ladies, haters, hobby heroes, influencers. Let's talk about this HGA thing that happened yesterday. Tyler Hitt, who was founded the company, is out. And I saw some posts. Some people get it, some people don't. Some of you guys don't understand business. Some of you guys thought, he sold this company to this Armstrong group and there must have been this big, huge exit. And gosh, he started this big grading company and he made millions of dollars. That's not at all what happened. HGA was been hemorrhaging money for several months. So what Tyler had to do to continue to keep the lights on and pay the bills and not go bankrupt, he had to take on investors, dilute his 100% share of the company, take on investors so that they could start paying his bills. This Armstrong group came in, took a look at what was going on and saw what a disaster it was, saw what a disaster Tyler was, and said, hey, you got to go. So Tyler, didn't get any money for this. He said in his Facebook post how much money this has cost, how much time it has cost him with his family, and so on and so forth. We've heard allegations that he's, used this company to essentially cheat on his wife. Him and the upper management has done this. So, guys, this was not some big strategic exit by Tyler Hitt over at HGA. He took on an investor so that he could keep paying his bills several months ago. That investor came on, probably opened the book, saw what a disaster it was, and had to kick Tyler out and take over the company. To show you what a disaster it is, I think HGA every week or every couple weeks takes 3,500 orders. They've filled 11 of 3,500 orders so far for their allocated week. So you can do the math on that for how much they charge for grading if that's able to keep the lights on. Shoot, even if you were doing this out of your, spare bedroom in your apartment. So this was a disaster, a business disaster for Tyler. A lot of you guys are going to, don't understand business and think this was a success for him. No, it was a disaster, and we're going to see what happens to the remaining assets over at HGA, to the new, unknown kind of faceless management coming in, and see if they can get and garner more than 11 orders in a week. Next situation to talk about, Marx Cards. Got an important court date that is happening today in Southern California to determine if PSA can start returning cards that Marx Cards took in for customers as a group submitter for PSA. If you don't remember the story, I'm sure you do. Marx Cards is the Southern California hobby shop that was essentially running a PSA group submission Ponzi scheme. He would take in cards and money from customers, submit the cards to PSA, but not pay PSA yet. And this, caused Marx Cards, who did over $4 million in revenue last year in business, to go bankrupt in January. Astonishing on many levels. One thing I do want to point out, again, we don't know what the decision in this court case, if PSA has not been able to return cards to customers because of a court order. And Marx Cards has been doing some homework. They produced a spreadsheet with order numbers and customer names and addresses that can all be found online in court documents. One thing I found interesting is that, Marx Cards was 50,000 cards deep into sending cards to PSA. So it just shows you how unorganized, how poor the leadership is over at PSA and things like Marx Cards, that PSA let Marx Cards get this deep before knocking on the door to get a bill from them. And now we've got this mess where these cards can't even be returned to customers yet, even if PSA has already graded them. So it just shows that during the card boom, there was this blind trust of everyone, big and small, big companies like PSA and smaller people like Marx. You guys trusted these people almost blindly because you saw how many Instagram followers they had, or you saw that, other influencers were doing videos with them. And it just shows you, how stupid and naive a lot of you guys were. In 2022, we've seen a lot of this kind of collapse. The card market has collapsed. A lot of these Ponzi schemes and scams have kind of ran out. They've kind of ran their course because the money in cards has dried up in a sense. And so we've seen that. And we've seen, companies like HGA and Marx kind of things have come to a head here, and the business is failing. So stop trusting people, big and small. I don't care how big these companies are. I don't care how many Instagram followers they have. I don't care if your favorite influencer has done videos with them and patted them on the back and promoted them. Stop promoting them. Stop trusting them until they've really earned it. And you can really point to things to say that, hey, this person, this company really deserves my business, really deserves my time, really deserves my money. I think we can all say that Marx Cards and HGA certainly don't. Last thing before the sun gets in the way of this video, I want to talk, there's been some talk about, hobby shops lately. We've got a promotion going on right now for the country's best hobby shop. We have Fanatics taking over really the whole entire sports card division, and it's really got hobby shops out there wondering, what they have to do. We've had Josh Luber, kind of the head of that Fanatics trading card division, talk about, shops need to be more organized and share their data and be modern and so on and so forth. And so I want to talk about two shops that a lot of times get a lot of play as kind of being the example of being kind of, the hobby shop you should open and so on and so forth. And maybe you've heard of these guys, maybe you haven't. One is called Bel Air Sports Card, home of the Card Bar. No, not in Bel Air, California, but I believe it's in Maryland. The guy that owns it, I believe his name is Mel Lundgren. The other guy I want to talk about is Kentucky Cards. I believe there's a shop in Kentucky, and I think he's opening a shop maybe in New York and LA. Hey, a lot of you guys are going to watch this and think I'm going to hate on these guys, or think that I am hating on these guys. I just want to point out something. One thing I specifically do remember, I've heard Mel Lundgren, the owner of Bel Air Sports Cards, talk at the TOPS conference and probably like an industry summit a couple different times. I believe he was a former executive at FedEx. And I believe he gets like a 6-figure pension per year. Okay? Still, to this day. And so when we start talking about examples of guys who have run hobby shops, I just want to look into the camera and say directly, if I gave you $150,000 a year and then let you go open a hobby shop, you don't think you could open something similar to what Mel Lundgren opened in Maryland? Of course you could, and you maybe could do it better because you're younger and hungrier and haven't maybe had that success, and maybe you would be more driven. Maybe you understand cards better than Mel does. Same thing with the Kentucky sports card guy. Again, I don't know his specific situation, but I could imagine that this guy has never really made money in sports cards. And you can't tell me that one little hobby shop in Kentucky, even if it's successful, is then going to go open one and do a build out in New York, and then go open one in LA, and then go open one in the Bay Area. I know how much that's going to cost. And then also hire Tracy Hackler from Panini. No, this guy made a lot of money in some other business. And again, kudos to him. I'm not hating on him for that. I appreciate that he's now come over to the sports card world and, started to spread his riches over here. But I just want to point out, when we start talking about hobby shop examples, that how hobby shops should be, that it's dangerous pointing to guys who get 6-figure checks from elsewhere, who have made presumably millions of dollars elsewhere and are now pouring it into a hobby shops, that we don't know if these hobby shops make money. It would not shock me one bit that Kentucky Cards doesn't make any money on these card shops. It wouldn't shock me one bit that Bel Air Sports Cards breaks even or loses money. Okay, so when we start talking about best hobby shops and how hobby shops should be and the type of, hobby shops that Fanatics is going to let sell their products and sell TOPS products in the future and sell NBA, MLB, and NFL products into the future, I just want to warn people that there are hobby shops out there that are just subsidized from prior business activities. And again, that's not a bad thing. I'm not hating on it. I just want to point those things out because those are things that don't get mentioned. And again, if I gave you $100,000 or $150,000 a year and you wanted to go open up a card shop and some of these things are in the damn near middle of nowhere, I think you could do a pretty good job. So again, kudos to these guys for what they've done, but let's not use them as a prime example of what a hobby shop could be. And you could open a hobby shop without a FedEx pension. You could open a hobby shop really on a kind of a bootstrap budget, again, depending where you are. And it could be just as good, just as profitable as anything, that these guys have done or anybody else has done. So don't let that deter you if you're thinking about it. I know a lot of guys out there, that's their dream to start a hobby shop. Don't let first of all, don't use these guys as an example and don't let them deter you and think, oh God, I could never do what Kentucky Cards is doing. I could never do what Mel Lundgren is doing. Well, yeah, because you're not getting, 6 figures a year either for some work you did in the past. So just wanted to point that out. Again, I'm not hating on those guys. Just want to point that out. Again, we have a lot of focus on the hobby shops lately, you know, card or hobby shop of the year or whatever the contest is running, and with the Fanatics thing. So anyways, I'm sure we'll see you guys again later this week. Me and my brother will be back, I'm sure, to talk to you guys about the hobby. Peace.